The Royal Lodge, the 30-room residence of Prince Andrew and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, has sparked public outrage over its lavish grandeur and the prince's right to live in such splendor on Crown Estate property. The gates of Royal Lodge have been sealed shut. The lights inside the 30-room Windsor mansion are finally dark, and the woman who spent 2 decades living rent-free inside one of Britain's most prestigious royal estates has vanished, not with a farewell, not with a statement, not even with a wave goodbye. She was simply gone. This is the story of Sarah Ferguson's final, humiliating chapter at Royal Lodge, a story about a woman who once had everything: a royal title, a royal mansion, royal protection, and lost it all. Not in one dramatic moment, but in a slow, grinding, deeply public unraveling that has left her without a home, without a brand, without a title, and without a country to call her own. And the truly shocking part? The royal family saw this coming long before the rest of us did. So the question you have to ask yourself is this: how does a woman who lived for 20 years in a Windsor mansion end up effectively homeless at 66? How does someone who once called herself part of the royal tripod, her word, end up reportedly leaving a royal estate under the cover of darkness, her face hidden and her destination unknown? Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how it happened and why the palace's silence throughout it all speaks louder than any statement they could have made. To understand how far Sarah Ferguson has fallen, you first have to understand the extraordinary life she was living. Royal Lodge is not a holiday cottage. It is not a modest flat tucked away somewhere in Windsor. It is a 30-room mansion set deep within Windsor Great Park, one of the most exclusive and historic private estates in the United Kingdom. The grounds are sweeping. The history is royal. The Queen Mother herself once called it home. By any standard, by every standard, Royal Lodge is among the most coveted addresses in Britain. And Sarah Ferguson lived there rent-free. Her ex-husband, Prince Andrew, had been granted a 75-year lease on the property at a rent so low it was essentially symbolic. A financial arrangement that effectively handed one of the Crown's finest residences to a disgraced royal at almost no cost to him, and certainly no cost to her. Think about that. A 75-year lease on a 30-room mansion on the grounds of Windsor Castle for next to nothing. When Sarah Ferguson moved back in around 2008, more than a decade after her 1996 divorce from Prince Andrew, the former Duke and Duchess of York remained on friendly terms, despite officially ending their marriage in 1996. She wasn't paying a penny, not for the heating, not for the maintenance, not for the staff. The Crown, through its various mechanisms, picked up the bill, a bill that, for any ordinary person, would have been staggering. She lived this way for more than 15 years after her marriage ended. A divorced woman, no longer a working royal, no longer technically a duchess in any active sense. And yet, there she was, waking up every morning inside a Windsor mansion, walking those famous grounds, living what she herself acknowledged was a life most people could only dream of. She justified it through what she called the tripod herself, Prince Andrew, and their shared role as parents to Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. It was a compelling narrative, 2 people who loved each other enough to remain friends, practical enough to share a home, and devoted enough to their daughters to put family first. She spoke about it warmly in interviews, making it sound almost noble. But here's the question that nobody at the time was asking loudly enough. Was any of that the whole truth? Or was it a convenient story that allowed 2 people, one scandal-plagued former duke and one financially struggling former duchess, to hold on to a lifestyle neither could afford on their own? Because if you look at the timeline of what came next, you start to wonder whether the tripod was ever really about the children at all. The shadows behind the mansion walls. While Sarah Ferguson was giving interviews about her beautiful family arrangement at Royal Lodge, something dark was gathering in the background, something that had been building since at least 2010. When photographs emerged of Prince Andrew visiting the home of Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender who had been imprisoned for soliciting a minor for prostitution. For the first time ever, Prince Andrew faced the cameras to defend his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew's connection to Epstein had been a source of discomfort for the royal family for years. But discomfort became a full-blown crisis in 2019, when Andrews sat down for what has since become one of the most catastrophically misjudged interviews in modern royal history. His BBC New Night interview with Emily Maitlis, the journalist who would later reveal crucial details about what happened behind closed doors at Royal Lodge, was meant to set the record straight. Instead, it did the opposite. In that interview, Andrews struggled to explain his relationship with Epstein. When pressed about his association, he offered justifications the public found baffling. He spoke about a visit to Pizza Express in Woking with a strange kind of pride, as though it were proof of innocence rather than a detail that invited more scrutiny. Most damaging of all, he failed, comprehensively and publicly, to show empathy for Epstein's victims. It was a disaster. A slow-motion, nationally televised disaster. And throughout all of it, every wave of scandal, every fresh headline, every damning revelation, Sarah Ferguson stood by him. She defended him. She appeared at his side. She remained at Royal Lodge even as the pressure mounted, and advisors around her must surely have warned that this was not a good idea. Why? Why would a woman who had spent years rebuilding her brand or writing children's books, supporting charities, and trying to reinvent herself as a philanthropic figure, tie herself so completely to a man whose reputation was in free fall? The answer, as we now know, may have been that she had her own reasons for staying close. Her own connections she didn't want examined too closely, her own relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which she had reportedly spent years trying to keep out of the spotlight. October 2025, the day King Charles III acted. For years, the royal family had watched the situation at Royal Lodge with what sources described as increasing frustration. Prince Andrew was refusing to leave. Sarah Ferguson showed no sign of going anywhere. And the Epstein scandal was not fading, it was intensifying. Then came October 30th, 2025. Buckingham Palace issued a statement, brief, formal, and devastating in its implications. King Charles III had begun the process of stripping his younger brother of all royal titles and honors. For the first time since the announcement, King Charles III was seen publicly after removing Prince Andrew's royal titles. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, no longer His Royal Highness, no longer entitled to the privileges, deference, and protections that royal status provides. The announcement included one further detail that stunned observers. The lease on Royal Lodge had been terminated. Terminated. Not renegotiated. Not extended. Terminated. After 20 years, after a 75-year lease that should have secured his position for decades, the agreement was over. The crown had moved, and it had moved decisively. Sarah Ferguson received no mention in the announcement. Not one word. No acknowledgement that she had lived there for 15 years. No alternative arrangements offered. No grace period suggested. She was simply not part of the equation. After everything, all those years, all that loyalty, all those interviews defending Prince Andrew, all the times she referred to herself as part of the royal tripod, she was not even worth the sentence in the official statement. The report that changed the narrative. Royal journalist Emily Maitlis, the same Emily Maitlis who conducted the infamous 2019 BBC New Night interview, later claimed on her podcast that the push to remove Prince Andrew from Royal Lodge did not come solely from King Charles III. She described a meeting involving Prince William and Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, the daughters who had grown up at Royal Lodge, the daughters for whom the entire tripod arrangement had supposedly existed. According to that account, they urged their father to step aside or risk further damage to the family, and potentially to their own standing within the monarchy. While not every detail of that report can be independently verified, the outcome was unmistakable. The family had closed ranks. Prince Andrew was out, and Sarah Ferguson, by extension, had nowhere left to turn. The countdown begins. The announcement gave Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson a deadline. Initial reports suggested they would need to leave by January 25, 2026. January 25th came and went. They were still there. This is where the story shifts from political drama to something almost unbearably human. Because while Prince Andrew at least had somewhere to go, would farm on the Sandringham estate, a modest cottage with 2 reception rooms and a kitchen, far humbler than Royal Lodge, but a home nonetheless. Sarah Ferguson reportedly did not. She had owned a townhouse in London, a £4 million property purchased in 2022. It was a lifeline, a fallback, a home of her own. But she sold it in 2025, the very year the palace began making decisive moves against Prince Andrew, leaving herself without property to return to. Let that sink in. She sold the one home she owned just as the ground beneath Royal Lodge began to shift. So where was she meant to go? Her daughters could only offer temporary solutions. Princess Beatrice has a home in the Cotswolds. Princess Eugenie divides her time between Portugal and Kensington Palace. Neither situation offered a permanent base for their mother. Neither, reportedly, had the space, stability, or perhaps even the inclination to absorb the fallout indefinitely. Insiders told reporters that Sarah Ferguson had nowhere to go. One source used the word homeless. A woman who had spent 2 decades inside a 30-room Windsor mansion was now, effectively, without a home. She was even rumored to have inquired about Adelaide Cottage, the former residence of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, after they relocated from London to a more private setting in Windsor. The British royals may have their pick of palaces and castles, but for Sarah Ferguson, those doors appeared to be closing one by one. The request reportedly alarmed palace advisors, particularly given her alleged connection to the Jeffrey Epstein files. Explosive documents released in connection with the Epstein investigation referenced Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, a development that only intensified scrutiny. Given the ongoing criticism over royal spending and lingering questions about her own judgment, the idea of granting her another Grace and Favor home was seen as politically toxic. The answer, it seemed, was no. And all the while, her professional life was collapsing around her. The empire in ruins. After her divorce, Sarah Ferguson had spent years trying to rebuild, crafting a brand, launching businesses, writing children's books, fronting weight loss campaigns, supporting charities, and creating companies designed to give her an identity beyond her royal connections. In the weeks following the October 2025 announcement, that carefully constructed empire began to crumble. 6 companies she controlled entered the process of dissolution. 6, not 1. Separate ventures, each now winding down. Some reportedly carried debts, others appeared to exist largely in name only, with minimal shareholder value. Her charity, Sarah's Trust, announced it would close for the foreseeable future. The statement cited, in carefully chosen language, the damage to her public image. Consider what that means. When your own charitable foundation determines that your name has become more of a liability than an asset. It did not stop there. Major organizations that had previously been associated with her, including the Teenage Cancer Trust and the British Heart Foundation, quietly removed her as patron. There were no press releases, no public rebukes. Her name simply disappeared from official websites. The silence was deliberate, the message unmistakable. Former royal aides, speaking anonymously, reportedly advised her to step entirely out of the spotlight, to seek regular employment and abandon any expectation of public redemption. The idea of writing a tell-all memoir, which had allegedly crossed her mind as a potential source of income, was discouraged. The fallout, advisors believed, would be catastrophic. By the final weeks at Royal Lodge, Sarah Ferguson was reportedly a woman without a stable income stream, without a professional platform, without an active title, without a charity, and without a confirmed home. And she was about to lose the last thing she had left, the illusion that the palace still had any practical use for her. The emails that reignited the storm. In January 2026, the United States Department of Justice released more than 3 million pages of documents related to its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. 3 million pages. Among those documents were emails. Some of them included Sarah Ferguson's name. For years, she had characterized her association with Epstein as a gigantic mistake, describing it in a 2011 interview as a single lapse in judgment, the sort of unfortunate miscalculation anyone might make. But the language contained in certain released messages painted a more complicated picture. In one email reportedly signed by her name, Epstein was described as the brother I have always wished for. Not an acquaintance. Not a casual contact. A brother. In another message, she wrote, "I am at your service. Just marry me." The apparent context suggested a proposal to manage certain properties in exchange for financial support. The tone of the correspondence, intimate, familiar, transactional, raised difficult questions. It did not read like the words of someone who had simply made a brief mistake and moved on. Perhaps most unsettling was a 2009 email referencing plans for a lunch with Jeffrey Epstein in Miami, in which she mentioned that Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie would be present. For the public, that detail was particularly jarring. Whether every implication drawn from those documents will withstand scrutiny remains a matter for legal and historical debate. But politically and reputationally, the damage was profound. By that point, the collapse was no longer gradual. It was complete. In 2009, the same year Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution, Sarah Ferguson allegedly arranged for her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, then aged 21 and 19, to be in proximity to him after his conviction for crimes involving minors. The public reaction when these details resurfaced was swift and severe. It grew more complicated. In 2011, 6 months after publicly describing Epstein as a gigantic mistake, another email reportedly surfaced. In it, Sarah Ferguson appeared to apologize to Jeffrey Epstein for distancing herself from him publicly. She described him as a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend, and wrote that she had been bedridden with fear about speaking out against him. Bedridden with fear about a man she had publicly characterized as merely a regrettable error in judgment. Documents also suggested that Epstein had assisted in paying some of Ferguson's personal debts, financial troubles that had long shadowed her and caused public embarrassment. The alleged financial support added a new layer of complexity, raising uncomfortable questions about dependence and motive. Her spokesperson's response was brief. Ferguson expressed regret, they said, and her thoughts were with the victims. Few found the statement sufficient. The night she slipped away. Here is the detail that made everything stranger. Sarah Ferguson did not leave Royal Lodge with Prince Andrew. She did not wait for the official deadline. She did not issue a statement. She did not say goodbye. The Daily Mail reported that her last confirmed sighting at Royal Lodge was in September 2025, months before the official eviction deadline, months before Andrew's departure, and months before the large-scale release of Epstein-related documents intensified scrutiny once again. She was reportedly seen getting into a car, her face turned away from cameras. Her destination was undisclosed. She did not return publicly. Consider the timing. September 2025 was also the month King Charles III was reportedly preparing the October announcement that would strip Prince Andrew of his remaining titles and formally terminate the lease on Royal Lodge. Was it coincidence that Ferguson vanished weeks before the palace made its decisive move? Did she know what was coming? Had she been warned? Or had she simply read the signs and chosen to step away before the public humiliation became unavoidable? Her last social media post also came in September 2025, a message marking the anniversary of September 11th. After that, there was silence. No posts, no public appearances, no interviews, no royal engagements. Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, had effectively erased herself from public life, not dramatically, not defiantly, but quietly and completely. The final departure. On the night of February 3, 2026, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, finally departed Royal Lodge alone. There was no farewell gathering, no palace tribute, no official photographs. After 20 years at one of Britain's most prestigious royal addresses, he left under cover of darkness for Wood Farm, a modest cottage with 2 reception rooms and a kitchen, located roughly 2 miles from Sandringham House in Norfolk. His world had shrunk to a fraction of what it once was. Royal commentator Jenny Bond described the move not as a simple relocation, but as a formal exile. And the word felt apartment exiles do not receive send-offs. They do not receive public acknowledgement. They simply disappear. The arrest on his 66th birthday. If Andrew's departure from Royal Lodge marked the end of an era, what followed felt like something from a political thriller. On February 19, 2026, his 66th birthday, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was arrested. Officers from Thames Valley Police arrived at his temporary residence on the Sandringham estate and took him into custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The allegation was serious, that while serving as the United Kingdom's special representative for international trade and investment, he had shared sensitive trade documents with Jeffrey Epstein. If proven, such accusations could have carried severe legal consequences. He was held at a local police station for approximately 11 hours before being released without charge, meaning the investigation remained ongoing. The arrest itself, however, was historic. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor became the first senior British royal in modern times to be arrested. For a man once born into privilege, protection, and unquestioned status, the fall had become not just symbolic, but official. The BBC reported that he had been arrested on suspicion of misconduct. Some commentators reached back nearly 4 centuries to the reign of Charles I of England to find a comparable moment in royal history. King Charles III issued a brief statement expressing his deepest concern. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie declined to comment. The palace offered nothing further. And Sarah Ferguson? She was nowhere near Norfolk. Reports placed her first in the French Alps visiting friends, then in the United Arab Emirates. She was later seen at an art fair in Doha, Qatar, attending alongside Princess Eugenie, who was working there as a gallery director. Consider the optics. Her former husband was being arrested in Norfolk. The Royal Lodge they had shared for 2 decades stood empty, and she was photographed at an international art event in the Gulf. Legal sources suggested that if, and when she returned to the United Kingdom, Thames Valley Police might wish to question her regarding her connections to Prince Andrew and her documented ties to Jeffrey Epstein. One royal expert, speaking to Fox News Digital, described the actions of both Andrew and Ferguson as shameful and suggested she consider leaving the UK altogether. Whether that was hyperbole or a genuine warning was unclear. Observers also noted that the United Arab Emirates has, in the past, served as a haven for prominent European figures navigating legal or reputational crises. Whether Sarah Ferguson's presence in the region was strategic or coincidental, speculation was inevitable. A woman without a base. By spring 2026, this was her position. No permanent home. Royal Lodge closed to her. The London townhouse sold. Her daughters could offer temporary refuge, but not permanence. She had reportedly inquired about Adelaide Cottage. The palace had reportedly declined. Professionally, the picture was equally stark. 6 dissolved companies. A shuttered charity. Major organizations that once associated with her had quietly severed ties. Former aides were said to be advising her privately to step away from public life and seek ordinary employment. She no longer held an active royal title. No HRH. No official duties. No formal standing to leverage for income or influence. At 66, her name was linked to one of the most damaging scandals in modern British royal history. And those closest to her were reportedly telling her that public redemption was, for now, off the table. Yet perhaps the most striking detail was this: she reportedly still believed she deserved a royal residence. Sources claimed she had compared her situation to that of Diana, Princess of Wales, arguing that she was entitled to similar grace and favor treatment. Former aides found the comparison baffling. The palace reportedly found it politically impossible. Because Diana, Princess of Wales, whatever the complexities of her life, was never connected to Jeffrey Epstein. She was never named in documents released by the United States Department of Justice. She never wrote emails describing a convicted offender as a brother. The comparison did not withstand scrutiny, and the palace understood that. The question at the heart of it. This leaves a broader question. How much of Sarah Ferguson's current position is the result of unfortunate circumstance, and how much stems from deliberate choices? She chose to remain at Royal Lodge. She chose to stand by Prince Andrew throughout years of scandal. She reportedly maintained a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein that extended beyond what she publicly acknowledged. She chose to sell the London property that might have provided independence. Each decision may have seemed reasonable at the time, yet together, they shaped the present reality. The silence of the palace. There is one final element worth examining, what the royal family has not said. When King Charles III stripped Prince Andrew of his titles, Sarah Ferguson was not mentioned. When Andrew left Royal Lodge under cover of darkness, there was no palace tribute. When he was arrested, the official response was a single sentence expressing concern. When Ferguson disappeared from public life, there was no acknowledgement at all. In royal communications, silence is rarely accidental. It is often strategic. And in this case, the strategy has been unwavering. Say little, concede nothing, and allow events and consequences to speak for themselves. Sarah Ferguson is now, it seems, to be treated as though she barely exists. No acknowledgement, no support, no criticism, nothing at all. Because any statement about Sarah Ferguson would require the palace to confront questions it cannot answer cleanly. Questions about what was known and when. Questions about why she was allowed to remain at Royal Lodge for 15 years after her divorce. Questions about whether the co-parenting arrangement was ever truly about the children, or whether it masked a deeper dependency. Questions about her connection to Jeffrey Epstein, and whether anyone within palace walls understood the extent of that relationship. The silence communicates a message. We are finished with this. We are moving forward. This chapter is closed. But for Sarah Ferguson, the chapter is far from closed. Wherever she is now, in the Gulf, in the Alps, or in a friend's spare room somewhere in Europe, she carries the weight of what unfolded inside those 30 rooms. She carries the emails, the documents, the history. Royal Lodge has been emptied. The lease has been terminated. The lights are off. But the story of what happened within those walls and what it reveals about power, privilege, loyalty, and the cost of proximity to dangerous men is not disappearing. Final thoughts. The fall of Fergie. Sarah Ferguson arrived at Royal Lodge as a woman who had already endured one of the most public humiliations imaginable. A divorce from Prince Andrew played out before the world. She rebuilt her life there on the foundations of co-parenting, loyalty, and what she famously called the strength of the tripod. For years, it worked. She had a home, a platform, a reason to be photographed, interviewed, and taken seriously. And then slowly, and then all at once, it unraveled. The Epstein scandal dismantled Andrew's public life piece by piece. First his career, then his titles, then his home. In the process, it dismantled hers as well. Not through one explosive event, but through a relentless succession of revelations and consequences that stripped away everything she had built or borrowed over 2 decades. Her final hours at Royal Lodge were not televised. There was no farewell, no ceremony. She reportedly left in a car, her face turned from view, as the gates closed behind her. And that was it. The woman who once described herself as part of a royal tripod departed alone, in silence, in the dark. The palace, meanwhile, continued forward without pause. So the question remains, in the months and years ahead, will Sarah Ferguson find a path back? A new platform? A reinvention the public is willing to accept? Or have the Epstein documents, the emails, the financial ties, and her proximity to the most serious accusations against Prince Andrew made that impossible? History shows that some figures recover from scandal. It also shows that some associations are too close, some documents too damaging, some revelations too stark for a clean return. Where Sarah Ferguson goes from here, literally and figuratively, remains one of the most unresolved stories in the modern British royal sphere. The mansion stands empty. The gates are locked. And Fergie has faded into the shadows. What happens next is a question only time can answer.